Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum, boys and girls. Welcome back to the most wonderful podcast that streams live on Facebook every Tuesday at around 8:30 p.m. unless we post otherwise on Twitter. The only podcast where you get to decide the weekly topic that we are going to discuss. And the only podcast that is hosted by the hardest working imam that I know, Imam Azhar.
Assalamu alaikum. Greetings of peace to our listeners who are here live with us tonight and those who are listening across the world. We welcome you here tonight to a special episode of our podcast from Toronto, Canada. Toronto is known as the meeting place, and we're coming to you live from the Metro Toronto Convention Center, where 220 religions were represented for the last
Just so everybody knows, we are having some connection issues, but that's the beauty of the internet. But he's back with us, so here you go.
Well, I don't know how much you heard, but I was just talking about how actually, you know what, to keep things best, I think we're cutting in and out, right?
Yes, we are.
So I think it's best that, should I continue moving forward or should I go back to where the internet was secure?
No, keep moving forward because it's getting better.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So yes, Carl, we're here. The last session is going on for tonight, and more.
You dropped out. Tomorrow morning, what's happening?
Tomorrow morning we'll be concluding this week-long session. The Parliament of World Religions started 125 years ago. And 125 years ago, people met of different faiths to discuss how they can overcome the issues that they face in the
You know what, ladies and gentlemen, this might be my fault because I told him to keep moving forward, and it is highly probable that I misjudged the internet, and maybe he should go back where he was. I don't know.
faiths and the world.
We were just saying, I was just telling the audience that maybe I made a mistake and you should go back the other way.
I think I should.
So because I know he's cutting out, I will jump in and I will tell everybody that our topic tonight, and I'll go ahead and throw the poll up on the screen so everybody can see it. But our topic tonight is the most voted on by you is, where is Imam Azhar? And I know he's walking around trying to get back to better signal. So while we're waiting for him to find that, Imam Azhar has been telling us that he is at the Parliament for World Religions in Toronto, Canada. And it is a meeting and it looks like his stream is studies. So I'll throw it back to him and let him fill in the blanks for you.
Okay, so then I'll stop here. This is a meeting of people from around the world of different faiths and different backgrounds and different cultures, where they come together and discuss commonality. They also discuss the unique perspective of their faith, and they also discuss the challenges that we have between different faiths. So based on the numbers I heard a few minutes ago, there was 220 religions represented here at the Parliament. Over 9,000 plus people have attended from, I forgot how many countries she said. This is the 7th Parliament. It happens every 3 to 5 or sometimes more than that years in different locations. So this is the first time it happened in Toronto. I don't think it's going to happen in Toronto again. 3 years ago, it happened in Salt Lake City, Utah. Before that was Cape Town. Before that, Barcelona. And it happened, I think, in 1993 in Chicago, where it all began 125 years ago. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Carl. I'm going to go to a better signal zone.
And I was absolutely not ready for that. Outstanding. So I want to say thank you to everybody that is tuning in tonight, and I want to say thank you to everybody that has tuned in the past. I will actually take this moment and remind everybody to go ahead and head over to vennetwork.org, where you can see all the shows that we have. You can find some of the Venn Network merchandise. There should be links to Amazon up there. And we'll actually be, I saw this on Twitter the other day, and we'll actually be revamping our Patreon page. And before we do that, we'll be looking forward to you guys to give us some feedback on what kind of materials you'd like to see as rewards for being patrons for this, for the Venn Network, for all the podcasts. And this is, for those of us that are just joining, this is a very special episode, as Imam Azhar is coming to us live from Toronto at the Parliament of World Religions. And he's wandering around trying to find better Wi-Fi service so he doesn't cut out and we miss everything that he is saying. But yeah, so that's happening. For those of you that are at home this evening, I am live streaming in the background over there, so if you ever see me look away, I have the election going on over there, so that's what I'm looking at. So if anybody needs live updates, just post in the comments and I'll tell you. But back to Imam Azhar.
So again, thank you, Carl, and thank you to listeners for their patience. As you see here, this is the Parliament of World Religions. It concludes tomorrow morning here in Toronto, Canada. Upstairs, I don't know if you can hear, I'm just going to kind of switch the camera out, but you can see there's an escalator where people are going up, and behind those black curtains up there is our last and final session for tonight. Now, what is the Parliament about? Many people, even in the Muslim community, have very limited understanding when it comes to interfaith work. There's a difference between interfaith outreach, civic engagement, and many other things that happen. People who've come to the Parliament have come with different goals and different hopes and different objectives, I would say. There are some who come here to introduce to others what their faith was about. There are some people here who try to work with people of other faiths to find what they have in common. There are those who've come here to meet with people of similar faith from different parts of the world to strengthen their network. What I'm trying to say is that people came here for many different reasons. The reason I came here was because I wanted to understand how the fabric of the interfaith network, how strong it is, and how we could put it to test. There are many global issues and national issues that we're facing in America, and truth be told, in a lot of the discussions that I attended, there was over 1,000 different sessions, just FYI, 1,000 different sessions, major ones, minor ones. If you put the minor ones together, sometimes between 1 hour, we had 83 sessions within 1 hour. Our goal was to select which session we thought was viable for ourselves. And while I'm talking, I'm just going to turn over here to see these are the sponsors of the Parliament here in Toronto. You can see there, Islamic Relief is there on the bottom. So we have some of our sponsors for this beautiful event. And again, it's just an amazing thing. There's just so much to talk about. But again, I came here because I wanted to ask the tough questions. I wanted to sit in those sessions that really enlightened me and allowed me to understand the different perspectives that are out there, and also to empower me in my own faith. So I had the honor and the privilege to sit with in a session where I learned from Dr. Ingrid Madison. I got to listen to Sister Zahra Bilu, and also Imam Mujahid from Sound Vision. Also, I got to sit with some prominent rabbis, some from the Baha'i community and from the Buddhist community, to understand the genocide happening to the Rohingya people in Burma. So there was a lot of opportunities. And matter of fact, Carl, there was a session downstairs in the 100th floor that talked about white supremacy, its origins and its roots. And throughout this week, in many of the sessions that I sat in, a lot of reference was being made to the condition and situation in America, and also our current president and leader, and our political leaders, and of course, upcoming election, where many Americans tonight are at the Intercontinental next door, and they're attending the result watch party, where everyone's, of course, holding their hands tight and hoping that the results of the midterm elections are for the best of America and its people, and hopefully on a path towards betterment. So, out of all the sessions that I've attended, I felt that Burma was one of the amazing ones. What's happening to the people of Myanmar, also white supremacy in its roots, how to combat Islamic extremism, the Marrakesh Treaty and the Marrakesh Agreement, where Morocco is taking a lead in the continent of Africa to educate imams and to eradicate what you could call terrorism and a rigid mindset that puts the faith in question amongst the people of faith and, of course, outsiders. And as I said, tomorrow morning will be the final session from 9 to 12, and everyone will break after that. Back to you, Carl.
So I just wanted to share this because I just got a direct message. Well, it was a group message, and I thought you and our audience would enjoy this news. Speaking of the election, somebody just shared the post. Ilhan Omar.
Yes.
She is officially a congresswoman.
Alhamdulillah. Beautiful. MashaAllah. That's amazing. We had good hopes for Ilhan Omar, and congratulations to her, and much success on the path forward as she serves her state and she serves the nation at large. We're still holding our seats tight as we look on to Andrew Gillum and, of course, Senator Nelson in Florida, versus Cruz in Texas. There's a lot at stake politically, and, of course, truth be told, people of faith, we are affected when our politicians do not understand inclusiveness and embrace all of us. There is a lot that is at stake for all religions. We all came together and discussed common challenges. We discussed community work. We discussed things that we face on an individual level as servants of the religion. And I could just say there's just so much to learn. I asked one of the directors tonight if they're going to announce tomorrow where the next parliament will be, and they said that they won't do it at this time. But we're hoping within the next 3 to 4 years, the next parliament will convene in another country, in another part of the world. I hope it's going to be in America, but I doubt it because Chicago, Salt Lake City have already hosted it. Toronto has just hosted it right now. And it seems it might be going maybe to the eastern part of the world. And FYI, it also was in Melbourne, Australia. So, yes.
So my question for you is, you're there with all these different religions, the leaders of these religions, and you're there with people from all over the world. Mm-hmm. Has there been any chit-chat, any coffee table talk about I guess just America and how some of the rhetoric is affecting things? And I know you said you had attended some panels on Islamophobia and combating it, and you said there was a panel on white supremacy. But has there been any major solutions that have offered up that we can implement as end users that you've heard?
So that's a very good question, Carl. Actually, there is so much happening within these last 7 days. It was really hard to even network on that personal level in between all these sessions. Keep in mind, sessions start from 6 in the morning. 6 in the morning is some worship service for the indigenous people. Just to pause here for a second, Canada has done a great deal of work, and they've gone to great lengths to honor and respect the indigenous people of this land, something that we as people of America and other countries should learn from. They've had a platform continuously throughout the week. They've had a separate section of this entire conference where we discussed the different parts of indigenous traditions, worship, history, so on and so forth. But from 6 in the morning, Carl, to 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, you could imagine there's so many sessions, everyone's running left and right, and it's very hard to network. But I can tell you on a personal level, I met with a rabbi from Israel who is one of the advisors to the government there. I met with monks who have connections, even with the monk who is leading the World Museum of Religion in Burma. And we've had the ability to talk briefly. It wasn't coffee talk. It wasn't over lunch. I wish it was. But we have exchanged information, and we are going to continue our dialogues and conversations. So really, the networking at this time really gives us an opportunity to continue our conversations. What I've learned from the parliament, as this is my first one ever, that from here till the next one, many things happen in between, which sprout from the parliament itself. So from the last one in Salt Lake City to this one in Toronto, many interfaith relationships and dialogues and conversations have occurred on a personal level, and that was all courtesy of what happened at the parliament.
Sorry, they're reporting on Florida right now, and I can't really pick it out. But it's from what I'm seeing from the other side of the room, the numbers are super tight across the board within like 10 points or less for everybody. I don't know, as our native Floridian, I know in Georgia, if it's that close, they do an automatic recount or they do a runoff. And I think they were saying if it's that close in Georgia, there'll be a runoff in December. How does Florida work? Do you know?
Well, you remember Florida was key in George Bush's election. Remember that?
The hanging chads!
So let's see what happens in Florida. A lot of effort has been made with Mayor Gillum, and I'm hoping that he will become the governor. Some polls suggest he had a wide margin, some don't. But as Muslims, complacency is, I think, our second name. We see a lot of inshallah, and that inshallah hasn't been educated upon, so we think that, you know what's going to happen. And that's why I posted on social media last week, or a few days ago, that your du'as are not going to work this time, your prayers are not going to work. You need to go vote and then pray. So we cannot just rely that God's going to do something good. We're going to have to do our part first and then depend on Allah at the same time while doing the good. Interfaith and politics. Just to kind of say one more thing, Carl, the Muslim community is very skeptic in general when it comes to interfaith work. There's a feeling that we're just singing Kumbaya together, or that we are just focusing on commonalities and not discussing the real issues, or some feel that by doing interfaith work we are compromising who we are, our values, and our religion. I think all three of these are completely bogus if you feel that's exactly what interfaith entails. First of all, we're not here to proselytize, and nor are we here to compromise our religion. We're here to represent the goodness that we have, hoping that with the goodness of other people, we can be a strong force in a unified unit against the darkness and the evil that is dominating our society and our world today. Morals and values, manners and ethics are running out of the window as fast as anyone could see, and there has to be a course of action taken not just by Muslims but by people of all faith and people who uphold values to make sure that we can not only restore it but uphold it. So interfaith is one thing that I would strongly suggest all clergy members, imams, responsibles of their community to engage in. It's something we have to do. Number two, when it comes to politics, same thing. How could you vote for someone who is not a Muslim? How could you vote for someone who's an atheist? How could you vote for someone who's Jewish? We're not voting for anyone in any capacity but to serve society at large. And that understanding is still missing within our Muslim community. And just to let your listeners and our listeners know that if you register to vote, who you voted for, we may not know, but if you didn't vote, there are ways to find out who didn't vote. So if our Collin County in Dallas has 7,000 Muslim registered to vote, but only 3,000 of them voted. We'll find out who the other 4,000 were. And again, it's not a threat or something. It's just that it's a shame on us that we couldn't take the opportunity of 10 days of early voting, or today, which was a day of voting, to actually go out and vote. It goes to show how we as a people cannot progress or succeed in society by having our presence on the table, from the menu to the table, unless we engage in those things that make you known within society.
Yeah, they're actually reporting on Texas right now, just as you started saying that. And I think they were saying that I'm lost now, because they have the big map, and they keep zooming into counties to show you who won the county.
Okay.
And so I get confused between the state level and the county level, because they keep switching back and forth so fast. But I think at this point, at 8:58 on a Tuesday East Coast time, it looks like it's 50-49 at this point.
Or
O'Rourke.
Hopefully it stays good. We're praying. And again, prayer is a pivotal part. We need to pray. We need to submit to God, and at the same time, do our effort. Carl, one more thing. While I know we're kind of between the elections and everything else, I learned something interesting here from people of other faiths. And I had these very prolonged discussions with people from various countries, and they're talking about the importance of spirituality. I just want that to sink in for the Muslim community, because many in the Muslim community consider spirituality to be irrelevant and how it's just a cultural, traditional practice of prayer. But realistically, spirituality is a key that universities across our country and people around the world are bringing back to the table as an important component in one's well-being. For those who don't know, I teach a course, alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah. I was blessed by Allah and His help and assistance to put together a course. It's very unique. No one has thus far taught this course. It took me close to 3 years to put this course together. It's holistic lifestyle coaching modeled by the Quran. I'm currently teaching it in Plano, Texas. We have over 150 students. In New Jersey, I already taught the first year, and I had over 70 students. And just to let you know, it comprises of mental health, well-being, physical well-being, and also spiritual well-being. And so here, one thing that really inspired me and enlightened me was the fact that spiritual health, spiritual component of one's life was discussed from people of all faiths, not just the Muslim community.
Sorry, you know exactly what I'm looking at, and you know exactly where I'm looking.
Look,
so
my stomach is hurting because I can't see those numbers right now, and I can't even walk to the hotel next door to see it because our internet will disconnect. So I'm just gonna follow your instincts on this one right now.
Well, I think my obvious follow-up question for you is, where can we learn more about that course, and is it available online? Because I'm interested.
So the course right now, I'm piloting in 2 cities. I'm trying to hopefully finish off New Jersey within the next year, by the end of 2019. And once it's complete, the book is, to the most part, the book is complete. I'm actually spending time to ensure that the application process is in line with reality, because it's not about what you need to do. We're also teaching how to have it done, like how to do it. And so inshallah, there is hope by the end of next year the book will be out, and inshallah I'll be teaching it in more places than one. But I'm not going to be teaching it online, nor am I encouraging anyone to put it online. Effective and it's successful, inshallah.
And as I take back over, just to show how absolutely creepy I am, I'd like to say salams to Sister Layla for joining us this evening, and salam to Sister Samira for joining us this evening as well. And we have our first comment. Sister Layla, look at that. She says, "Wa alaikum salam." Learning. Whoops, I gotta click see more. It says, learning from other religions helps us to become more tolerable and how to coexist, as we do not live in a Sharia country. Voting is incumbent upon us as a civil duty, as a human being. As you said, it serves society as a whole. Somebody told me today, how could I encourage to vote? It's shirk and kufr, but that is the wrong message some are spreading about Islam. We do not understand. We can do better, and we should continue seeking knowledge.
Well, I want to say salam to Sister Samira and also to Sister Laida and all our listeners once again, and I want to thank them for their participation, their words, and their suggestions. Sister Laila, I think we're really stuck between, we're in a bad spot as a Muslim community. We have a generation that has upheld a very somewhat narrow perspective on the perimeters of the faith itself, and I don't think it was done with bad intention. It was only to make sure that we are protecting ourselves. So if you know that there's a cliff 10 feet from now, I think what happened was the past generation put borderlines 100 feet from that point. So we're 110 feet from the cliff. We're beyond the zone of danger, but we kept it that way. And then we have a generation that's currently there that feels that it's hard to combat the mentality or the mindset that has been created in line with Islam. We're with Islam, basically. And so it's better to just let it be. And so we have stubbornness to some extent on both ends. We have stubbornness of people who don't want to change, and we have stubborn people who don't want to try to change it anymore. So it's a tough spot, but I can tell you that it's sad that after so many years in this country, we're still having these discussions: is voting halal or not? I remember when I was working for Bernie Sanders' campaign, I was up in Jamaica, New York, and I was speaking to the community after the Maghrib prayers on the importance of voting. Of course, as a 501c3, you do not tell people who to vote for, but I was just telling people to go out and vote. And the response from many were, how could you vote for someone when either there's a woman on one side or there's a Jewish individual on the other side? That was a narrow mindset that we have in our community, and thus we have number 45. That's really happens because when we fail to engage, every vote counts, every vote matters. And in the absence of these votes, we could see where our country has gone. So there has to be real talk and conversations. As I was telling you all, coming here to Parliament, I didn't come here to sing Kumbaya. And just FYI, Kumbaya once meant where people came together, they celebrated their uniqueness and also their commonality, but they made effort and they got something done. That's what Kumbaya meant. And then it became just coming together and singing in joy and happiness, but not doing anything. And now, to this, as Muslim community, forget the interfaith community for a second, as a Muslim community, we really need to start having real discussions on things. And once we could put a closure on those issues, we should not revisit next year. We should move forward through what we're progressing and advancing by those discussions, if that makes sense. So once we understand voting is not something that's haram, we can move on to how to politically engage effectively, how to have Muslim candidates running for different seats in city council, for the mayor, for senator, for house representatives, and even the president. And then tomorrow, help and participate in making this country a better place for all people. This is only going to happen when we could stop those continuously repeated questions, just like the khutbahs that are repeated every year. Is Halloween halal? Is Christmas halal? It just doesn't make sense.
So before I throw it back to you for the final thought, because we have reached our time limit, we have one more comment from Ariana. Salam, Ariana. Thank you for joining us. She said, it's very sad that people think religion and modern day activities such as politics cannot coexist. And honestly, what I will say to that before I throw it back to you for a reply and for the final thought of the evening is that is why this show is here, is to show that Islam can coexist, that it is compatible, that and I hate this, that we have assimilated into the Western culture. Like it's some episode of Star Trek and we're the Borg or something. I don't understand. But anyway, over to you, sir.
Well, to answer Sister Adriana's question and your thoughts, have we not already assimilated in the Eastern culture? Have we not in countries such as Bangladesh, Pakistan, adopted the Indian Hindu culture? Question for thought. We have done it to an extent that our children today here in the West are confused if these are religious practices or cultural practices. Remember, we talk about assimilating. At no way, any time, there's never a time or an opportunity where Islam will say you compromise your values, your religions, your belief system, and the practices that you hold near to yourself in order for others to accept you. I don't think I need to tell a sister, nor should a sister feel that she needs to take off her hijab or I need to shave my beard in order to be accepted in society. This is my personal decision based on the foundations of my faith and my belief system. I'm going to do it regardless if people like it or not. But when it comes to being part of society, remember what the caliphate was. It was leading the society at large from a current state to a better state. We all can agree that our world right now is not moving to a better state. For the most part, our world, from Brazil, where they elected a right-wing leader just last week, India and other countries are not going towards a better future. Right now, there's turmoil due to corruption, there's turmoil due to religion, there's turmoil due to many reasons. As a Muslim, we're not told to compromise. We're told to bring forth your values. You believe it, do it, bring it forward, and do what is needed to allow others to do what is better and for our society at large to progress. So I don't know what to say. We've just adopted so much and we have shunned so much more that I think we need to reevaluate and do a spring cleaning of the attic and find out what's really up there in addition to the cobwebs and the spiders, and take out what's not needed and keep what is needed. So Carl, we're wrapping up now. I'm going to go and find out what the elections, what's happening with the election results. But coming to you all from Toronto, it's been an amazing week. I've learned a lot, alhamdulillah, and I'm blessed by Allah, and I'm thankful to Him for the opportunity to do so. I'll be returning to my community in 2 days. Tomorrow afternoon we finish, and I'll be back on Thursday morning. And then I'll be traveling for another 2 days to Orlando, Florida, to speak at UCF, and then for the weekend at MIT in Boston. But until then, we want to thank our listeners for their engagement. Raw Islam is just for that purpose, for us to converse about current day issues and to start conversation through you all, our listeners. If you don't take the conversation forward, it's going to be launched as a podcast in a few days. And in order to start conversations within our circles, we can help change the culture that's dominating our religion and bring forth goodness through our religion and through our acts.
Right. Bring it back through our actions, because you dropped out, but I got you there. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another show. I want to thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I want to thank you, everybody, for the likes, the comments, the shares. I want to thank everybody for taking part in our poll this week. And make sure you stay tuned to us at Venn Network on Twitter for next week's poll, when we will once again let you decide what we talk about. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, because I already did all the other rants in the middle of the show, we will say Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.